West Creek Nature Preserve Wetlands. Located in Parma, Ohio, it's a beautiful example of an undisturbed natural environment in an urban area.
Did you say natural? I don't think so. This is man-made. 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 Man-made.
This area was used as a construction landfill for the city of Parma, Ohio from the mid-1960s until the late 1980s. After the landfill closed, a small group of community residents had the idea to reclaim this area for nature. The goals were to clean up the environment and improve the water quality of West Creek, preserve what was still unspoiled, and create a green space for wildlife and the enjoyment of people. Since this area is believed to have been a natural marsh thousands of years ago, they decided to create a nature preserve and 2 acres of wetlands.
What's a wetland?
Wetlands are lowland areas saturated with moisture, such as a swamp or marsh. Wetlands enhance the environment by acting as a natural water purifier and providing habitat for plants and wildlife. This little creek in Parma impacts Lake Erie, which provides our drinking water in northern Ohio. Water from the wetlands drains into West Creek. Which connects to the Cuyahoga River. The Cuyahoga flows directly into Lake Erie.
This seems like a huge project. How did it get started?
It took a year of research, planning, and preparation by the various project partners and the technical advisory team before work could actually begin.
This project truly represents a community coming together. We had scientists from the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District out here brainstorming with us. Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation District was out brainstorming with us.
The West Creek Preservation Committee joined with Cuyahoga Community College, the City of Parma, the Parma Park Advisory Committee, and HB Engineering to plan, design, and construct the wetlands. Biology professor Terry Greathouse served as the project coordinator.
I think this is a model of how the community cooperates with Parma Park Advisory Committee representing Parma. I'm representing Tri-C, and then the West Creek Preservation Committee, the grassroots group. With all of these people working together, I think it's a great model for communities. I really do.
An idea can start with 1 or 2 people, but needs many people to actually make it a reality.
It's a truly collaborative project, and we're proud of that fact.
My name is Sue Zurovchek, and I'm with the West Creek Preservation Committee, and also I'm with the Parma Park Advisory Committee.
My name is Roy Jeck. I'm the councilman in Ward 9, Parma.
Hi, I'm Andy Vidra. I work for the Northeast Ohio Area-Wide Coordinating Agency.
My name is Kelvin Rogers. I'm with the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency.
I'm Carla Stimmel from Envirotech Consultants.
I'm Dave Vassarelli, Director of the West Creek Preservation Committee.
I'm Terry Greathouse, Professor of Biological Sciences at Cuyahoga Community College, Western Campus.
Wow, this must have cost a lot of money. Who paid for it all?
Grants totaling $88,000 were obtained from the Lake Erie Protection Fund and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. The Lake Erie Protection Fund gave money for protecting the waters of Lake Erie and its tributaries. The National Fish and Wildlife Foundation contributed money for creating wildlife habitat in the middle of a big metropolitan area. In addition, donations of time and labor from volunteers, materials from local merchants, and the extraordinary efforts of the Parma City Services Department made this project possible.
Parma has been a great partner. They had the manpower and the heavy equipment down here to get all this done.
So how did it all happen?
The first step was to identify the project goals. With the goals identified and solutions determined, the next step was to design the wetlands.
The city leveled it off, removed some of the fill, compacted and basically built this hill, leveled this hill off. But we do have an erosion problem with it and a slumping problem. Because of a well that is right next to the hill, they had to avoid the well, so there's a steep slope right there, and that's where we're having a problem with the slump. Also with the wetlands, we're concerned about material eroding off the hill and filling in the wetlands, so we need to change the slope to a more gradual slope and try to design it so the water flows more gently across, and anything that erodes off the hill is trapped in maybe a swale to keep it out of the wetlands.
That little creek comes across by the truck and the telephone pole. It runs 10 months out of the year. It slows down in June, so by the time you get into July, it becomes intermittent, so it flows only during storms or trickles during storms. It starts flowing again when the rains come in September, okay? But for 2 months it doesn't flow, or it's intermittent. But we had a water source there. All of this landfill up here, we get sheet runoff. All this landfill slopes toward the road in the middle, and that road actually during a rainstorm is like a river. You know, that's one of the things that impressed us. And it just sheets down through here. What we found was that we had a lot of very fine-grained clay, which packs and becomes impermeable to water. That was important to me because, as I just said, our hydrology, our water source, during 2 months is not dependable. So if I'm going to lose it through percolation, I'm not going to have a wetlands. Because we're going to lose it through evaporation and transpiration. Transpiration is what the plants give off, and that's considerable. These plants suck up water in their roots and give it off to the atmosphere. So evaporation and transpiration I can't do a whole lot about, but percolation through the soil, I did not want to lose it because we would not be able to maintain one.
Then they had to survey the land.
The surveyors are staking out the channel.
Next, the land had to be prepared. Debris had to be removed because, remember, this used to be a landfill.
It's a 40-acre landfill, sanitary landfill, 40 acres of garbage and everything. And Parma had to have a place to put it. You know, I mean, we're never going to get rid of landfills. They're always going to be around. And this one was a demolition landfill where all of the debris from city streets and buildings and all of that stuff was all put in here. And all of that concrete, some of that kind of stuff up there, along with old hot water heaters from homes and pipes and asphalt galore, was all down through here.
Fortunately, this part of the landfill only contained construction materials like concrete and asphalt, no garbage.
I used to think, oh, this landfill, and I didn't think very highly of this landfill, and then I started thinking, you know what? This whole valley is not developed because of this landfill. We owe this landfill because of it, we have an entire 280 acres that we can create to a preserve because of the landfill. Nobody wanted to live around a garbage dump.
Invasive plant species, which move in aggressively and outcompete the native plants, had to be removed. This was to prevent the area from becoming a monoculture, just one type of plant. An environment with only one type of plant could not support a wide variety of animal life.
We're looking at Phragmites with the tall plume. Phragmites is an invasive in this area. It invades our wetland areas. The problem with Phragmites is it crowds out everything else. your entire wetlands becomes one big Phragmites bed.
We're moving in!
Phragmites moved in because we use a lot of salt in this neighborhood, and Phragmites is more salt tolerant than many of our native plants, and so you'll see it moving in along the highways and such, and then moving into the wetlands because it can outcompete the native plants in this area. Since we want this to be a diverse wetlands, this thing is going to have to be controlled. So we do have a 3-year plan for controlling the Phragmites population.
Then some non-wetland trees had to be removed. And the ground had to be leveled and channels created.
Channel is coming across the road. It's meandering down around. It meanders down through like this, lazy like meandering. No strong currents because we want a wetlands, a freshwater wetlands.
The next step was to install the 2 water control devices.
What's that?
A water control device adjusts the amount of water that can flow from one area into another.
Well, they have to build the forms for the concrete, set the structure into the concrete. There's 2 structures, and there's 2 pipes in each structure. 10-foot input and 10-foot output.
What we have here is an inline water control structure. There are slats in there that allow me to back up the water to different heights. If I want to bring this water level up, I take that top slat out that we bored holes in, I put another slat with no holes. And I can bring that up as far as I want, or take it down as far as I want. If the city for some reason needs to drain this completely, they just pull out all the slats, and this whole thing drains except for little pockets up in there. That's important for this wetlands because plant communities, groups of plants that live in this wetlands, all have different water depth requirements. And we want at least 3 different plant communities there, so I need to be able to adjust the water level until I get my 3 communities.
A rock pile was created to slow down the flow of water coming out of the water control device and to oxygenate the water in the wetlands.
You want a lot of oxygen in the water for the critters. Oxygen has to come from the air. So when the water hits the rocks, it splashes the water out, mixes with the air, and picks up all kind of oxygen. So we're oxygenating too with our rock pools. When this water in the spring comes gushing out, we want these rocks to slow the water down so it doesn't jet over, hit that bank, and break through. Because we want the water to hit here, go down through here, and curve back around and go out down there. This is called extended delay. When you make the water, hold on to the water as long as you can. And of course that allows the sediments to settle out, that allows the nutrients to be absorbed by the plants, the nutrient sink, that allows for pollution to hopefully complex with some of these things and precipitate out. That also allows us, again, to keep these storm surges down in the upper reaches of West Creek. That helps people downstream who have property downstream from getting it, flushed out.
Since there wasn't enough rainfall to fill in the swamp and marsh, water had to be pumped in from the creek.
We don't need much. We need shallow water to plant in. And then once we get them planted, then we'll let more water build up to the depths we want.
In order to create a wetland as close to natural as possible, only plants that are native to this area were planted. The plants were purchased from a nursery in Columbus, Ohio, which specializes in native species. They grow these plants from seed.
We collect our wetland seeds every fall. We clean them. We store them in a cooler. Come February, March, we cold moist stratify them for 30 days in a cooler. Then we start everything in our 100-foot heated greenhouse, and we have plants to restore wetlands.
There were 3 distinct plant communities: wet soil zone plants, shallow water plants, and deep water plants. The wet soil zone plants included swamp milkweed, swamp rose, and blue and red lobelia. Shallow water plants include pickerel weed, sweet flag, broadleaf arrowhead, and rushes. Water lilies were the only deep water species that were planted. Over the course of 2 weekends, more than 200 community volunteers, students, and West Creek Preservation Committee members braved mud, water, and slippery conditions to plant over 12,000 plants. Each one had to be planted individually by hand. Trees were planted to provide additional habitat and shade for the wetlands and creek. This shading helps maintain a cooler water temperature, which is vital to the health of the wetland, West Creek, and the plants and animals that live there. With the introduction of water and plants, a variety of animals can make the wetland their home.
What kinds of animals live here?
Critters, we're talking about frogs and turtles. We're talking about a lot of what we call macroinvertebrates, which are really dragonfly larvae and lots of other insect larvae and such that live in the wetlands.
So this is going to be an amphibian breeding place for this whole valley. Yeah, salamanders in particular, because they live up in the woods and then they'll migrate down in the spring to lay their eggs. Frogs, turtles, although turtles will mostly stay in. But toads come in and breed, those sorts of things. Plus we may end up attracting some birds that nest in wetlands. You can get what we call top minnows and mud minnows that live out through Ohio in these slow-moving, sluggish places. We can get those, and they do just great. But I do anticipate in the future small ones, like sticklebacks and things that live in wetlands.
Because this is an urban area, there are concerns about pollution from water runoff. The biggest pollutant is lawn fertilizer, which contains excess nitrates and phosphates. These macronutrients stimulate rapid plant growth, especially algae. When the algae die, they are eaten by bacteria, and this takes oxygen out of the water. That inhibits the ability of the creek, river, and lake to support plant and animal life. Other pollutants include heavy metals such as mercury, lead, copper, chromium, and cadmium, as well as gasoline and motor oil, which may have spilled onto city streets and driveways. Even the sewers can back up into the creek during storm surges. To check for all of these, there will be ongoing monitoring. Some people are concerned that wetlands provide an environment for mosquitoes to breed in and possibly contribute to the West Nile virus problem.
This is going to be good dragonfly habitat, and the dragons are deadly to the mosquitoes. Their young eat the mosquitoes, and the adults hunt the mosquitoes. And anyway, mosquitoes like stagnant water that's temporary, water that'll stand for maybe 3 days to 2 weeks, because their predators can't live in that. And so they've got the pool to themselves. And so, of course, this is going to be long-standing water, and so the predators are going to be here.
It seems like the wetlands are really important to this area.
Absolutely. In addition to providing a wonderful habitat for the wide variety of animals we mentioned earlier, the wetland can help reduce storm surges, erosion, and floods.
One of our problems, of course, in an urban area is that we get these surges of water into the creek off of roofs, off of streets, off of parking lots. So after a storm, we get this surge into the creek, and so anything we can do to alleviate that surge is going to be good for the creek.
By slowing down and retaining the water for a longer period of time, heavy sediment can fall to the bottom. It also allows plants more time to remove nutrients from the water. The wetlands provide an excellent educational tool in the form of land labs, offering hands-on learning opportunities for students in the areas of science, math, and English.
And the local elementary schools, Tri-C is partnering with them, and this is going to be their science lab. I'm working with Green Valley Elementary right now with the Ohio Compact Grant, and I'm just going to train their science, 5th to 6th grade science teachers down here on what environmental science I know down here. We're going to set up stations. They can bring their students down and park up there, walk them down here, and use it as a land lab.
Students can participate in seasonal programs of environmentally based activities and learn about the biological functions of wetlands, examine native and non-native species, identify urban impacts, record their observations, and practice map reading and measurement skills. And the wetlands help to ensure the health of the creek and ultimately the lake. Remember our little boat trip from the beginning of our visit?
It seems really cool that this is right here in the middle of the city.
It is very special indeed, and very unusual that in the center of a busy city like Parma, we can have this oasis of nature. Soon, the landfill will be just a distant memory. Future generations will not even know that this was ever anything other than a beautiful example of an undisturbed, natural environment in an urban area.